Hello racing fans, welcome to a preview of one of Tassie's biggest races, and that is the Group 3 Hobart Cup. It looks set to be another cracking race this year, so let's not muck around, let's get straight in to the preview. So this year's Group 3 Luxbet Hobart Cup will be ran on Sunday the 5th of February, not on regatta weekend, which is quite strange in my opinion, but that is okay. Of course, the race will get underway at 4:10 PM. Of course, the race is at Luxbet Park, and you can watch the race on Sky Racing 1 if you're not track side. Now, the field is a field of 10 horses for the 2400 metre race. It's a bit of a small kind of field, but there is some quality in this race. I'll start with the favourite, Big Duke, who is at $1.85. Strong favourite to win the 2017 Luxbet Hobart Cup. You've got Cool Chap, who was actually beaten by Big Duke last time out, backed by the punters at $4.40. You've then got GG's Golden Girl, won the Summer Cup in its last start, backed at $8. Count Da Vinci is also backed at $8 and is in very good form coming into this race. Lucky is backed at $17. Up Cups, the winner of the Hobart Cup and Launceston Cup of last year, is backed at $21. Gladstone is backed at $31. Settler's Stone is backed at $34. Milson, the oldest horse in the race, is backed at a whopping $126, and so is the Princeling. So that is the field for the 2017 Group 3 Luxbet Hobart Cup. Okay, now let's get into the field in depth, and I'll start with number 1, Up Cups, the winner of the Hobart Cup last year, coming back to hopefully claim back-to-back from Up Cups' point of view. It's had better form. It had better form last year leading into last year's Hobart Cup. This year in its last 5 races, it's got 14th, which was in the Newmarket Handicap. In the Conquering, it claimed 8th place. The Tas Stakes, it got 9th. In the Brighton Cup a few weeks ago on Tas Guinea's Day, it got second out of the 11-horse field. That's where it started to kind of peak a bit, but then could only claim 6th in the Summer Cup and was beaten by GG's Golden Girl and also Count Da Vinci, who is also in this race, the two notable horses in this race. So it's had better form coming into a big race like this. It has large weight with Craig Newitt on board, has large weight of 58 kilograms. Of course, it had about 55 kilos, I believe, in the Hobart Cup last year. It's coming out of barrier 8. Of course, it's a David Brunton trained horse. You can't rule it out, it's no question about that. It's definitely in this race, especially with the value at $21. Number 2, we have Lucky, trained by Tony McAvoy. Luke Curry is aboard. It's coming out of barrier 10. It has a wind range of 1,400 metres to 2,800 metres. Came 5th last start at Flemington. That was in the early parts of January. Came 7th in the Woodford Cup with Luke Curry on board. It definitely has the wind range, no question about that, to win this race, but the form for me isn't quite at best. It's no question about that, but it's definitely worth the $1, $2 each way. Of course, it is backed at $17, and you can't rule out. Number 3 is a Stuart Gandy trained horse. You can't go a Hobart Cup without a Stuart Gandy trained horse, and this one is number 3, GG's Golden Girl, is coming out of barrier 4. Sigrid Carr is aboard this horse as the jockey, and it has a wind range of 1,100 metres to 2,200 metres. Won the Devonport Cup last year, of course not really relevant because that was on a synthetic track, but it actually won the Summer Cup in its last start. I actually watched that race on Hobart Guinea's Day. It ran really well. Didn't really expect it to win that race, and it was able to beat the likes of Count Da Vinci and also Up Cups, and I think Gladstone was also a part of that race as well. Yes, it was. So it beat horses like that. It's coming into this race with great form. The distance should not be a problem at all, and it's definitely one you cannot rule out of this race. It's definitely in this, no question about it. Number 4 is Cool Chap, a Lee and Anthony Friedman trained horse, coming out of barrier 6, has a really good win range for this race and has Kieran McAvoy aboard with 54 kilos. It came second in its last start, and in the Ballarat Cup it came 5th. That was over the 2200 metre distance. It was beaten by Big Duke last start. I actually went back and watched this race. It basically around the turn got going. It then was leading down the straight sort of, and then Big Duke was able to catch it and win pretty convincingly in the end. But it did run a beautiful race in my opinion, Cool Chap, and I think with that extra distance it may just suit. And it's definitely top 3 worthy, no question about that. Of course, it is backed at around $4. Number 5 is Gladstone, came 5th in the Summer Cup last start. Of course, GG's Golden Girl, as we've already mentioned, won that race. This is a Scott Brunton trained horse with Anthony Dominion on board. It's coming out of barrier 1. It hasn't won a race since March 2016. That was at Morfordville. It wasn't a bad race last start, I have to say that, and it came 4th in the Launceston Cup last year, so I guess you can't really rule it out, especially when it came 4th in a big race, big Group 3 race last year. Number 6 is Milson, who is 9 years old and is the oldest horse in this Hobart Cup field for 2017. It's a Julia Richards trained horse, has Daniel Moore aboard. It's coming out of barrier 2, doesn't have the win range for this race. I've seen worse form for a horse, but I just can't see this horse being up there in the front. Of course, like I mentioned, oldest horse in the field. You never know, it could surprise, but I just can't see it being up there in the front. Number 7 is the big favourite to win the Hobart Cup, and that is Big Duke at a short price of $1.85. That's backed by the punters, and it's Darren Weir trained horse in good form, very good form coming here to Luxbet Park. It's no question about that. It's won its last 2. It's an informed horse, no question about that. It doesn't have the win range to win this Hobart Cup, but you would think that the 2400 metres wouldn't be a problem for this horse. It's coming out of barrier 9. Brenton Adela, who of course won the Crown Oaks last year, is aboard this horse as the jockey. It's 5 years old. It's the big favourite for a reason. It's probably the one to beat in the 2017 Hobart Cup. Number 8 is a horse that I really favour. It's a Scott Brunton trained horse, and that is Count Da Vinci, coming out of barrier 7 in very good form coming into this Hobart Cup, it must be said. It came second in the Summer Cup in its last start, but geez, it's won about 5 of its last 6 races. It's in very good form, doesn't have the win range for this race, but you would think that the distance will not be a problem because it's been stepping up in distance every race it's been going in its prep so far, I suppose, and well, it's just stepped up to the occasion. So I think this horse is a real lookout horse to watch in the Hobart Cup. It's backed by the punters at about $8, which is probably where it should be at, and well, I favour this horse. It's in good form and it's definitely top 3 worthy. Number 5, we have the Princeling. It's coming out of barrier 5. Charlie Goggin and Luella Meaburn is the trainers. Raquel Clark is the jockey, and it's got a win range of 1400 metres to 2200 metres. It came 6th in its last start at Launceston. I think this race might just be a little bit too tough for this horse. Number 10 is Settlers Stone, came 3rd in the Summer Cup last start, which means it beat the likes of Up Cups and also Gladstone, who is running in this race. However, it does have lower odds than those 2 horses. It only has a win range of 1600 metres to 2100 metres. I can't really see it being up there in the front, but you never know, it could surprise. Okay, time now to have a look at my tips for the 2017 Group 3 Hobart Cup, Luxbet Hobart Cup, and well, I went through the field, and I tell you what, I mentioned before about Count Da Vinci. I really like this horse. I've seen it run. It ran in the Summer Cup. Only come 2nd, but its form has been really good coming into this race. And well, I'm gonna tip it for an upset. I think it's going to win this race. I think it's got the form to win a big race like this, and I think. Yeah, I just love its form. It's won 5 of its last 6 races. It's been in great form. It's had some great preparation. And it's really stepping up to the occasion leading up to this Hobart Cup. So I'm going to stick with it. I think Count Da Vinci is going to win the Hobart Cup, the Group 3 Hobart Cup. I know a lot of people might think that's a bit strange because it's probably going to lead, or well, the speed map does suggest it's probably going to lead at the front early, but I think it's going to be, if it leads at the front early, I think it's going to be hard to catch. So Count Da Vinci is the winner of the 2017 Hobart Cup for me. That is my tip. I've gone Big Duke at second. Of course, you have to slot it in your top 3 if you're not going to slot it as the winner. It's no question about that. It's in great form coming into this race. It's won its last 2. The only little query is the distance, whether it can actually go that distance, but the way it ran in its last race, and from what I saw, it definitely can go that distance, so that shouldn't be a problem. And then third, the horse that beat last start, and that is Chap. It's in good form coming into this race also. I didn't think its last start was that bad. I thought it was a pretty good run. And, it was beaten by Big Duke in the end, but it really, it was at the back for most of the race, but it then just got going at the right time, and around that bend it was able to run a pretty good race in the end for me. So Chap is third. And then my roughie of the race, I've gone Up Cups. The winner of the Hobart and Launceston Cup last year was basically the king of racing last year, winning both those races. It went to the Adelaide Cup actually, didn't do so well, but it had a very good season last year of racing, and you just can't rule it out. It came second in the Brighton Cup. That was a really good run, and its run in the Summer Cup wasn't actually that bad. It did come 6 out of the 12 horses, and this distance will definitely suit this horse, no question about that. The only concern is the weight. It's carrying a very, very larger weight than last year's Cup at 58. It's actually the largest weight in this field for a horse, so that's the little query. If it can run with that weight though correctly and successfully, I suppose, then it's definitely up there in the finish, no question about that. You can't rule this horse out. Of course, like I mentioned in the in-depth preview, it had a better form coming into the Cup last year, and in fact won a lot of good races, but well, it hasn't had the prep that it probably would have hoped for this season, but you can't rule it out. Up Cups, the roughie of the race for me. It's actually backed at $21, probably worth a couple of bucks each way for a horse who took out both big races of Tasmanian racing last year. And that is it for my preview of the 2017 Luxbet Hobart Cup. I hope you enjoyed this preview, and well, I'm looking forward to the race. It's one of my favourite days of the year. It's of course one of the biggest days in Tasmanian racing, and even though the race has only got 10 horses, it is still going to be a fantastic race this year. Of course, don't forget to like, comment and share this video if you liked it, and of course subscribe if you're into horse racing. I've got the big Group 1 racing show returning next week in time for the first Group 1 of the year, so subscribe if you like your racing, because there's plenty of racing previews to come over the next couple of months. I tell you what, there's lots of Group 1 racing coming up, so that will be here on this channel. And well, until the next video, I'm Jacob. Enjoy the Hobart Cup. I'll be there. I'm looking forward to the day. Bye for now.